It's Bronzebird. Peace. Make sure that you like and subscribe my videos. Thank you. So today's conversation, I really was just giving thought into this whole entire thing about this upward ways of, I wouldn't even say, well, I would say this whole entire conversation about the vaccine, getting the vaccine, making sure that you follow these protocols when it comes to the mandate and all these different things, and about how certain cities, such as New York City and Newark, New Jersey, and places around, and even in California, like Los Angeles, and maybe even Sacramento and Oakland, is going ahead with these whole entire notions of making sure people follow the protocol of the vaccine mandates. But a lot of things come into questions when talking about this vaccine mandate. Number one, what company is it coming from, especially that they're just trying to approve it at the steady from the FDA and the CDC? And also, which I believe, I've always sat there and said this is a way of eugenics since day one, because their whole entire target margin has always been so-called African Americans, even though this is a global program that they're putting out here so that everybody follows the protocols they put in place. Now, my thing is, I do understand that I might have viewers, I might have listeners, I might have people who support this page who did take the vaccine because of a lot of different factors, because it depended on their livelihood. And certain people might have been afraid or felt as if like the coronavirus itself is very scary, so they want to protect themselves. I get it. And even certain people I may personally know took the vaccine because they had the coronavirus before and they didn't want to get it again. Trust me, I get it. I understand. And I wouldn't even try to cause an argument about it and this, that, and the third. But the reality of this discussion today is really to reach upon the point that because of this hysteria that goes out in this society, it's starting to create a lot of civil wars within people. And especially because when it comes to American public, they're always looking for a way to cause confusion, doubt, and tensions amongst people just for very trivial things. Biden is doing this whole entire thing of pointing the narrative at those who are unvaccinated, saying that those who are unvaccinated are pretty much predators, looking for a reason to spread the coronavirus on those who are vaccinated, which entails even still that whether you have the vaccine or you don't, there still is a possible liable chance you can catch the coronavirus. So I was looking at this whole entire thing before I start this video about this YouTube or organization called Project Veritas. Veritas, it's something like that, in which they're more of like a far-right movement, or that's what they said when I researched, started by James O'Keefe about 10 years ago, looking for a way to expose a lot of these politicians, people who work under government agencies. Especially now, the whole entire target is to look for the lies and the fallacies told by the FDA and the CDC, even your beloved Dr. Fauci, who makes all these statements, and the funny thing I find ironic about these conversations is when you hear people like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Dr. Fauci, and a couple of these other people out there, they first say, oh no, the government doesn't have the power to mandate these vaccines. You cannot force someone to take a shot and blah, 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 but look at your world now. Look at how they're saying that if you don't take it, you will lose your job, you will lose your home, you will lose all these privileges you have just because you don't take the vaccine. And, a lot of the stuff, especially Fox News, comes around and says that it's more of a draconian effect, and, it's a lot of tyranny being exhibited by the US president and stuff like that. But this is also around the world too, because I know in Italy, they're doing something similar, if not worse than what's being told in America. So we have an understanding it's a global strategy. But I wanted to show you this video today about an FDA employee who wanted to go ahead and essentially say that the way to prevent this problem is to go ahead and give out blow darts specifically towards so-called African Americans who are unvaccinated and that they need to take the shots. And I've been saying since day one, the whole entire problem with this pandemic is that they're also trying to invoke the idea of eugenics. I've said this for a while now. Look at exactly what they did on television. Saturday Night Live, Juvenile coming out with that horrible song called uh, "Back That Vax Up" or whatever you want to call it. Various rappers from around the country using rap songs in order to market getting a vaccine towards so-called African Americans. I mean, the list goes deeper. Spike Lee doing his commercials, that commercial about taking a vaccine, interviews being put in place with chemists and all these people out here who are so-called African American or so-called Black, who are trying to advise so-called Black people to get the vaccine by using a lot of smokescreen tactics or using stereotypes of so-called Black people to take the vaccine, such as basketball and moving weight or moving drugs and this, that, and third. A lot of these like smoking window terms, you know what I'm saying? A lot of this. But just the fact of the matter, this in particular employee figures that if he has to relate the whole entire thing of so-called African Americans getting the vaccine to Nazi Germany. So we're going to be going over that today. We're going to be doing this, and I'm going to give my commentary along the way. So peep. Fair use.
James O'Keefe. Pre-order now at AmericanMuckraker.com.
Get blow darts of J&J and go to the unvaccinated, blow it into them, blow dart it into them. I remember reading about how with COVID trials, they were having an issue recruiting African American people.
Can't blame them.
I can't, but at the same time, like, blow dart.
So his tactic, for those who don't understand who this man is, this is a Food and Drug Administration employee by the name of Taylor Lee, who is initiating this practice of essentially going door to door and specifically targeting so-called African Americans by blowing darts at them with the vaccine in it. This is a tactic that this young man decides that he says would be the best way to target so-called African Americans, since a lot of us don't believe in taking the vaccine, especially with bringing up concepts such as the Tuskegee experiment and Henrietta Lacks, because obviously we're smart. There's still the whole entire plague of drama that we still experience from past decades on the US government using so-called African Americans as a scapegoat for experiments. Whether you're saying something is enriching as Project Mockingbird, MK Ultra, a couple of other experiments out there, a lot of psychological programs invoked by the US government in order to get so-called African Americans in place, especially I would think of during the lifetime of the crack cocaine era in the 1980s with Ronald Reagan and all these different things like that. So, I mean, obviously there is some type of hurt so-called African Americans are verified in believing, with now this whole entire thing about the vaccine, in which they want to have a lot of pushback about taking it, which is understandable.
That's where we're going. There needs to be a registry of the people who aren't vaccinated. Although that's sounding very Germany.
The Germany that you're thinking of is
Not Germany. I mean, think about it like the Jewish stuff.
it looks like FDA or something.
Yeah.
So,
Again,
so in order.
blow dart. It is the perfect answer. And since J&J is an mRNA, you have no issue of it counteracting with anything else. So again, you just shoot everyone.
Now, this is me speaking on experience, and I'm not gonna lie, I did hear this from another source. I did not do the research on this, and I will admit that. I am taking my time of gathering information as of right now, trying to figure out, you know, the whole entire thing with Johnson & Johnson, which has a slew of lawsuits. That is, a good amount of these companies that's initiating these vaccines do have a lot of lawsuits and a lot of things behind their name. And it's, I'm pretty much sure right now, Google and a couple of other search engines are trying to delete those files so that people are not able to get that information to prove that a lot of these companies giving out these vaccines have a shaky background. So he keeps mentioning Johnson & Johnson. That's why he says J&J, but we understand exactly what he's talking about.
Drones. Drone darts.
Easy.
How do we reach the minority populations?
Blow darts is always the answer.
Yes.
I will cheers to that.
Yes. Cheers.
And the people who are like, oh, the vaccine's terrible, it's the Antichrist, they're like, yes, our savior. So if they start handing out.
Well, the whole entire thing about it is understanding the whole entire thing with Nicki Minaj playing the whole entire controlled opposition role. The thing about it is with these celebrities unknowingly know that, or knowingly know that they cannot go over certain thresholds when having these conversations. If we have understanding that this is a planned gimmick, and that also when it comes to knowing exactly what's going on, if you're under a certain contract or you're just a celebrity or public figure in general, there's a certain threshold you cannot cross. So now you see this whole entire thing with Nicki Minaj and all these stories coming out about her husband and about these R cases and about how he R'd one woman and a woman is going out there, sitting up there talking about he did this and she put up hush money and all this other stuff. Those who already understand exactly what's going on understand it's nothing more but a shaming ritual. That's all it is. She's going through a shaming ritual just because she spoke out against the vaccines because she wasn't supposed to do that. That's not her program. But then again, maybe it was all contrived. Maybe it was all a reason for why she did it and why they had picked her to go ahead and do it. You never know in this simulated world exactly how things may be intentional or unintentional is the point.
Vaccines, I'm going to go door to door and stab everyone. Oh, it's just your booster shot. Stick your arm out.
Exactly.
What's that? Oh, it's just a vitamin C shot. Again, if you're on.
And this is the thing about this as well. I think a lot of people need to pay attention to this. Of course, if we're talking about this whole entire thing of taking the shot, those who refuse, yes, they're going to move on to the whole entire autocratic ship of getting probably military officers or people out there to make you take the shot or tell you you need to go to prison because you don't take it. I mean, this is the world we're about to move into. And a lot of people I speak to, they be like, they're scared, they're this, they're that, and the third. I mean, look, listen, nothing can fear you as much as the power of the Most High, in which I believe. I don't try to copy off of anybody else when I say that, but I know that we are definitely dealing with the end times, the ninth inning, whatever you want to call it. And the thing about it is, if you haven't understood already, you know, they already have certain programs put in place in which they'll take the documents or they'll go to different door-to-doors asking if you took the shot or would you want to take the shot. And if you refuse, you'll probably get like a red marker on your name or this, that, and the third, indicating the fact of the matter that you're giving the government a hard time because you are not assimilating into the program. So there's a couple of programs that's put in place that know that they're doing this on purpose. And what this dude is saying is probably going to get to that point. More than likely. They already have this program out in New Jersey. That's what I know so far. And not going door to door to poke somebody in the arm with a damn vaccine, but them taking the information, asking if you took the vaccine or not. Just like in the hood, when they have the missionaries or they have the whole entire Jehovah's Witness knocking on your door. Now it's going to be them.
Undercover journalist, you can't quote me. Again, if you're an undercover journalist, you can't quote me.
The government doesn't want to show that the darn vaccine is full of shit.
There needs to be a registry of the people who aren't vaccinated. That's sounding very Germany. I'm going to go door to door and stab everyone. Oh, it's just your booster shot. Blow darts is always the answer. But like, again, I think there's still this big mistrust in, like, it's deep rooted in.
Yeah. Can't blame them.
I can't, but at the same time, like, blow dart.
And that's pretty much the end because it's a 12-minute video, but I wanted to show you the essential part of a sole FDA employee who's having a dinner with a journalist talking about this whole entire thing of blowing darts at specifically so-called African Americans in order for them to take the vaccine. Now, before I leave, right, before I fly out, I want to ask this question to those who may view this video, because this is where we need to have a discussion. Now, I thought at first glance it was about protection. It was about this whole entire thing is if you want to get the vaccine, you can and nobody should put it against you. Now, the thing about it is those who are unvaccinated, where do they sit on the brink of this conversation? Now, understanding still, this is a part of a global strategy in which they want to move towards a new government and a new system so that they're able to get closer to the human being, therefore making them true properties and true entities held by hamstrings of the government. Absolutely. But the thing that I like to ask in these conversations, I thought at first it was always about advising, not forcing, not saying you have to. But then where do we get on these conversations when an undercover journalist goes ahead to a dinner with an FDA employee, and that FDA employee is taking on pretty irrational effects on trying to make specifically so-called African Americans to take the vaccine because so-called African Americans are more than likely not to want to take the vaccine. What's that about? Now, let's just say they get cut through Congress and went through the government and they approved it behind our backs with these bills, right? How would it go? Now, what they need to know your name, your address, your IP address, and all this other stuff out there in order for you to be a target in their system and say you must take this vaccine now, or they'll do some clever way on trying to find you out and then blow a dart at you with the vaccine in it. I mean, the irrationality that they're going on these strengths of trying to get you to take this vaccine is completely ridiculous. And I mean, this is no shade towards those who took the vaccine. This is not about you. This is about just understanding exactly in part why I believe this is a part of the eugenics program. They've had it out for so-called African Americans since day one, since since it started getting really serious with the coronavirus, in my opinion. And therefore, after that, it started to be more of this global strategy excerpt that they're pulling out of the book, maybe the Communist Manifesto or this, that, and the third, in which they're trying to find ways of then saying, oh, well, you don't want to abide by our rules and lose your privileges. So that goes for everybody, not just so-called African Americans. But there's an essential reason why they're on target and on blast towards so-called African Americans. And minorities at that, but you know what I mean, and you understand exactly what I'm getting at. Peace.